Welcome to today's live. Please excuse my background. We've got people putting carpets in and doing all sorts of things, and so I'm a bit all over the place. Today, I want to talk about the commercial reality of running a coaching business. I was having a conversation. Well, I've had a few conversations over the last 24 hours since last we spoke. That have been around commercial reality. One of them was in a LinkedIn post. A coach had said, I'm finding it really frustrating that people just don't seem to understand. People and businesses just don't seem to understand what coaching is and how incredibly valuable it is. And I sort of said, well, that's because people don't know what we do. They know what coaching is, and it isn't what we do. The word coach had a very well established meaning when Thomas Leonard decided to use it to describe what we do. And this coach said, I know it's really annoying, isn't it? Do you think people will improve, that people's knowledge and understanding of what we do will improve? And I said, no, I don't, because we've got a job title that already has a meaning in everybody's mind. And that's not going to change. People aren't going to realize, oh, you don't mean that coaching, you mean this coaching, because the fact that they think they understand stops them listening any further. And the short version is, we need to get very, very good at articulating the value of what we do in a way that non-coaches can assimilate. So rather than trying to describe the coaching process, or rather than kind of being mad that people don't understand what we do, and worse, they think they do and they're wrong, rather than letting that make you feel upset and angry or cross about it, learn how to articulate the value in what you do. Client acquisition is a professional skill, and it's a very specialized professional skill for us as coaches. If you go to your local Chamber of Commerce generic marketing course, it can be very good, but it won't cover how to market something that nobody understands, but they think they do and they're wrong. Now, why that makes such a difference is that if you think of any other professional service provider, so accountant, lawyer, psychotherapist, counselor, I could go on, architect, I could go on. But if you think of any of those, people know what they do. And what that means is they know when they need the services of one. Now, people know what a coach does. A coach trains you to do something. That's what the word coach means in the minds of almost everybody. I appreciate that there is a small group of people, usually in the upper echelons of organizations, who understand what our kind of coaching is, but the rest do not. Now, what that means is they don't know when they might need our services. And that's a real problem, because people are not looking for a coach. They are not searching for a coach because they don't know when a coach could help. And so what we need to do is take ourselves out of the pool of coaches who are kind of flapping around going, I'm a coach, I'm a coach, I'm a coach. How do I differentiate myself? Well, the way you differentiate yourself is by learning effective client acquisition skills. Now, when we think about a financially viable coaching business, it contains two skill sets in equal measure. On one side, we have our delivery skills, the skills that we use when we're sitting in front of the client. And those skills, the skills that sit on that side of your scales, they are every coaching qualification, every practitioner certificate, every facilitation certificate, NLP, transactional analysis, Gestalt. I could go on. All of the things that are tools that we use in the service of the client sitting in front of us, they are delivery tools. They are not client acquisition tools. And on this side of the scale, we do not insert our knowledge and experience. That's the opposite of what we do, isn't it, when we're coaching? I know there's been a change to the core competencies. And that's a whole other conversation. But in general, we don't insert our knowledge and experience into those conversations. On the other side of this weighing scale, and make no mistake, this is 50% of the skills that you need to build a financially viable coaching business. This is where client acquisition skills sit. And this is where the coaching revolution sits. This is what we teach. Now, client acquisition skills are marketing skills and sales skills predominantly. And I know that most coaches think that marketing isn't great. You know, it can be a bit grubby, it can be a bit unethical, it can be uncomfortable, and that they really don't like the idea of selling. I mean, you know, we've worked with coaches who have entire careers and degrees in marketing and or sales, and have struggled to articulate the value of what they do when it's their own business. Now, the secret, if you will, it's not a secret at all, but it seems to be a surprise to a lot of coaches, is that this side of the weighing scales absolutely is about your knowledge and experience. Because in order to be able to articulate the value to someone of what we do, you need to understand, number one, who they are, and number two, the thing that they're struggling with that working with you can resolve. And you need to be able to describe that, not in our language, which I refer to as coach speak, you know, not in coaching jargon, but in their language. And even though problems that could exist I'm not articulating this very well. Let me take a step back. If we look at, for example, emerging leaders exist across every sector, industry, and profession. However, how the struggle with being a newly emerged leader shows up in different industries and sectors depends on that industry and sector. They will use different language. It will have a different impact. The rhythm of their life is different. And if you are marketing to them, you need to understand what that difference is for the person in the particular sector that you are going to choose to focus on. Now, I know coaches don't want to focus. I know they don't want to focus. I know they are very married to the idea that we don't need to know anything about the client sitting in front of us and that we can coach anyone on any topic. So why would we focus? Now, coaching anyone on any topic sits on this side of the coaching scale. And if you're delivering associate coaching, for example, so you're coaching somebody else's clients, then you don't need to know anything about that client. They can arrive and you can deliver coaching to them. If you want to find your own clients, you need to choose a focus, because there is no such thing as unfocused marketing. There's no such thing. If it isn't focused, it isn't marketing. Now, if you're worried about ethics of marketing, there is a code of ethics for marketing for coaches, and I know because I wrote it. And if you go to the coachingrevolution.com website, to the About Us piece of the menu, there's a drop down there, and one of those drop downs is the code of ethics for marketing. You can download a copy. It aligns with the ICF code of ethics and the global code of ethics, but it's not the same because it's a different skill. It can't be the same. Now, there is something really odd about coaching and about the way that we learn it and the way that we approach it, which is that we do it almost with no regard to commercialism at all. And I can feel people thinking or saying or thinking, well, that's right. But anything else we train for example, if we train to teach or to be a nurse or to doctor or to be a lawyer or an accountant, there are jobs as those things. Now, with coaching, there are very few jobs as coaches. Yes, there are internal coaches, but they are few and far between. And if they become vacant, the number of applicants is enormous, and usually with a lot more experience than you might have. However, If you are a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, et cetera, and you want to start your own business, then there is an understanding that you're going to need a client acquisition process, a robust client acquisition process. Because if you don't have a robust client acquisition process, you won't have clients. And if you don't have clients, you don't have a business. Now, the sector that you choose to focus on, and by the way, this is even if your coaching has nothing at all to do with work, even if your coaching is about something that's outside work completely, health or something utterly unwork related, you still need to know who this person is and where they work and what they do, because we spend most of our lives at work. Whatever it is that we're doing, coaching around, work will have an impact on it. And we're being naive if we think it doesn't. And the other thing is that if we know who the person that we're speaking to is, who this kind of the niche that we've chosen, if we know who they are, we know where they are. And when we know where they are, then we can be there too. And that's the most important part, is that we don't need to be visible to everybody. We just need to be visible to the people that we want to reach. Now, the way to choose a niche or a target audience, they're synonymous, is to look back through our own careers and to base the choices on this side of our scales on our own knowledge and experience. And I know that there are people who have burnt out of careers or left careers or sectors because they no longer want to work there and have said to me, well, I don't want to go back to working in that sector. Well, number one, if you're going to coach people who happen to work in that sector, you're not going back to that sector. You're not. You're just taking something positive from your knowledge and experience and using that knowledge and experience to build a coaching business where you happen to be focused on people who work in that sector. And if you've only ever worked in one sector, no matter how much you don't want to focus your coaching business on that sector, you might be misunderstanding why you should and why you can without going back into it. There is another option. If you haven't had lived experience in a sector, industry or profession, if you've had a front row seat to the life of somebody who has had lived experience, then that can suffice. It depends, but it can suffice. And the reason that you need to have that lived experience is that, or front row seat to the lived experience, is that you need to be able to speak their language. You need to understand what's going on in their lives, because the impact of the role and the way their year goes will be different depending on which industry, sector, or profession you've chosen. I can feel the disagreement. I can feel it, even though I can't see you. I can feel you going, hang on a second, that can't be right. May I invite you to come and have a robust conversation with me for free in my free 4-day challenge. It's called Nail Your Niche, and the next one starts on the 20th of April. If you go to thecoachingrevolution.com/nail your niche, and I'll make sure to put a link to the challenge around the video, wherever you're watching it. When I've finished, I'll go and put a link there. It's an opportunity to understand the detail in what I'm saying, and also to kind of have a robust conversation with me about why you don't agree, and let me explain to you why it might be that you're thinking about this from the wrong angle, maybe. Because the truth is that delivery skills on their own are not enough to build a coaching business. No matter how unfair it is that we weren't aware that we were going to need client acquisition skills when we started out on this coaching journey, no matter how angry it makes us feel that we realize we need a whole other skill set, and it is 50% of the skills that we need. Like, make no mistake, it is 50% of the skills that you need. And they are just as important as your coaching skills. If you have excellent coaching skills and poor client acquisition skills, you can't build a business coaching your own clients. You can't. If you have excellent client acquisition skills and poor coaching skills, you won't be able to build a business because your reputation will go before you. If both are poor, you've got no chance. But if both are good or both are excellent, then you can build whatever kind of coaching business you want. And however unfair that might feel, it's a fact. It's just a cold, hard commercial reality. And I know that feels almost at odds with coaching and the kind of other person centered way that we deliver our service. I know it feels like that. I know it feels at odds. And I do understand the strength of feeling that some of us have, that we've been misled, and that why didn't we know about this up front? I do understand. I promise I understand. But if you want to come and have a conversation with me about how it works, or about how cross you are, or just about how much you disagree with me, please do come and join my challenge. And I will see you tomorrow for what I believe is day 18 of my personal 30-day challenge. See you tomorrow.